Here I am, Leon C, aka Morpheus. And you are now listening to the Academy of Wow Men. Here today, got another wonderful and excellent lesson for you. And it's going to be a deeper thought, and it's going to be stimulating. Whereas you should have an opportunity to think and to get something from this. If you do not, I cannot help you. Really simple things here. Now, some of you are wondering, okay, what is this angle this time? How is he going to break it down this time? What is his directive? What is Morpheus thinking about today? Or LCM, preferably. Well, I had a question as to, according to several people chiming in, and they asked the question. And it's a very simple question, and I get it. They said, well, where do you get your information from? That religion isn't true, or it's made up from anthropomorphic ideas, as you say, Mr. Professor. Since you think you know so much, how do you know what you're saying is true? And where's your foundation? Where's your algorithms? Where is your calculations to present unto us that religion is a man-made idea, but the idea of God, so to speak, is different than what we've been taught? And you are correct. So basically they're asking me, okay, so if you think that religion and the churches and all these denominations is a barrel of Cracker Barrel odd apples that just so happen to fall from a tree, then you tell me where you get your information from. How do you calculate what you're saying to be correct or true? Very well then, because ladies and gentlemen, I have what you need. See, over here in this Academy of Wow Men, I would not be your professor if I couldn't teach you anything, or if I'm coming from assumptions or ideas. I come from very raw sources that I would say, and honest, a lot of you aren't interested in digging into, because we are so interested in entertainment. Social media and your dumb phone, as I like to call it, and in the majority of what you engulf yourself in, is usually laced in entertainment, drama, suspense. Someone got hurt. There's this mass abruption going on in a different country or miles away from you. It's sort of a major interest of most people. But when it comes to truth, when it comes to things that are thought-provoking, the common person isn't interested in that. This is why you could say mainstream media, television, and hip-hop, popular TV shows and sports and things like that, they're very highly sought after, because it's based on entertainment. It's based on keeping you sitting there staring at a computer screen or a television screen and getting fed what they want you to think or what they want you to know. You say, okay, who's the they? You know, any individual that's looking for money and popularity and just to get likes and get viewership, they won't tell you the whole story, but they'll definitely entertain you for a good hour, an hour and a half. You know, there's things like documentaries, airplane crashes, and all the other things that may be available to you, either on the internet or television. But you notice they have to explain this thing. It takes them like 2 hours and 20 minutes to explain something that's very simple, as far as what caused the plane to crash and what were the pilots doing and what was their final results. They could have surmised it in a matter of 20 minutes or sometimes 15 minutes, but they have to draw it out because they want your viewership. They hire actors. They hire people to depict and to show you what that situation could have been like. And with it, of course, there's their viewership likes and their ratings that will eventually go up. I'm not mad at them. I mean, it's an okay thing to do, so to speak, and it's a very good, smart business angle. But I'm not entertaining you over here. That's not what this place is for. Absolutely not. This is no entertainment. There's usually times where, it takes me an hour or 20 minutes to explain something. It's not because I'm long-winded. It's because, it just, not to step on anybody's toes, because I don't know you personally, but a lot of people are just stupid. There are plenty of people in this country now that just don't care about thought-provoking ideas or facts. They don't do their research, so therefore, it's going to take an hour and 20 minutes to break it down. And usually I enjoy myself when I'm speaking to you because it actually takes longer than that. You're not in my classroom. So therefore, I'm not standing before you as your professor for about 45 minutes to an hour. So I got to break it down as decently and condensed as possible. Although I would say in all confidence, I would say it's not going to work because out of 10 people, only 2 people will get the information and practically understand it. And how do I know this? Well, by the way that your country is operating today. The low profile, low IQ, low hanging fruit, lazy, push button, fast food, instant gratification lifestyle. Who cares about thinking, right? Let's not worry about it until we're all dead and gone. So I do the best that I can to explain myself anyway, even if you got a hard time turn on the elevator and allowing it to go up to the top floor. For most people, the elevator goes up to the 3rd floor, and that's where they take a nap, smoke a blunt, and look stupid. Okay? So this is what I know, not what I think. This is what you can find out. This is what you can research. And for those who've asked me where I get my information from, okay? I should not need to explain this to you because it's all over the internet, it's all over your environment, and it's common sense. It's almost like you ask a person, where are you getting clean water from? And all you know how to do is just open up the tap water. Where there's plenty of sources where you can get clean water from. There's plenty of stores that may sell decent bottles of water, and then you can research where that comes from if you're not too lazy to do that. And when it comes to humanity, how long has human beings been on Earth? How long have you existed on Earth? How long have you known how to spin a wheel, or that the wheel exists on a car? So where my information comes from, you can say it comes from practically everything. It comes from history, it comes from facts, it comes from listening to the pastors. Go to the church and you read the words and you figure out where the words come from. You figure out how they came to be, and you got to do this, ladies and gentlemen. You got to go back in the past. The past is where most of your information have come from. And then when you sit down and you calculate human activity, you begin to understand that the mathematics is very easy to surmise where something came from. Let me give you an example, and then I'm going to get back to this. It is part of the subject, but I'm gonna throw something in there to give you an idea before I begin, so you can put the pieces together yourself, because I'm not going to force you to drink. I'm just going to tell you this is where the water is, horse. It's up to you to drink. If not, hey, you can go somewhere else as far as I'm concerned. Half of us never get the message anyway, like I just described. You don't have the keys to allow your elevator to go to the top floor because the world don't want you to. You don't want to. You accept being told what to do instead of thinking about what needs to be done on your own, like a grown damn adult. So here it is. There was a helicopter that was being built, okay? And this helicopter, the wings of the helicopter look like a almost like a spinner top, okay? And I can't think of what the helicopter is called and the name of it, but just hear the story out pretty good. Because I don't have the paperwork in front of me, so I can't give you accuracy, but this is actually a true story. And the helicopter was very lightweight. It only had, I think it was 2 wheels, and it had to be pushed in order for this thing to get off the ground. So it was, it was pretty much you could say a project, the beginning prototype of what this inventor wanted to do. And it was during the time of war. Of course, you can say there was always war. There's always some type of conflict from country to country. And halfway through his tests and trials of this, you can call it a helicopter because the way that the wings, like I said, was equivalent to a spinner top, was spinning in a circular motion, rotation, no different than a helicopter. But it kept failing, and it kept falling, and it kept failing, and the inventor didn't really want to redesign it because he was set on this helicopter. He was set on it. You can't really call it an airplane, like say a helicopter. And so one of the people asked him in an interview, this inventor, he said, "Why did you decide to make this monstrosity? What gave you the idea? What came to your mind when you decided this? I mean, it seemed like a good idea. It's pretty cool. You got this flyer thingy that you want to get off the ground, and the way that you have the you could say the propellers or the wings is very interesting. And it seemed like it's working every now and then. It's not really getting fully off the ground. Do you want to change it up? And what was your idea? What are you looking forward to?" And so the inventor's response was, well, it was an idea and it was an imagination that I thought of. Listen carefully, ladies and gentlemen. Listen carefully. That I thought of after sitting in a parlor around a group of people who was sharing opium. We were sharing opium. We were doing opium. Okay, this is history here. And so basically he was saying, I've gotten this idea from getting basically high, from being drug induced. So this is what gave me the imagination to create this thing, just from my imagination, because I felt like it. I thought it was a very good idea. It was just one of those aha moments because I was inspired by my spike in my dopamine levels and the chemicals that were rolling through my body. I didn't really have a long-term vision of this thing. I just thought it was a good idea. It was a good imagination for a time. But I think about if I want to keep creating this aircraft, if I want to be more innovative with it, maybe I need to come up with more creative inspiration. So in other words, it would not have existed if he didn't get his bloodstream intoxicated with some type of foreign agent, some type of drug that gave him the illusions or the delusions and the fascinated rainbows and colors of, oh, I can do this. Ooh, this paint looks very fascinating. What if I put it this way and that? Most of the times we don't understand that a lot of our great inventors came from being in an opium room. They came from messing around with heavy drugs and narcotics and experimental cocaine back in the old days. We don't understand that a lot of these people, they sat down in parlors and smoke rooms and they got inspired. They wasn't inspired by what some people say God or nature. It was a fascinated idea because they were entertained mentally. That's like any other person when they're sitting down to what we would call a joint or hashish or whatever you want to call it, ganja, marijuana. usually those people become inspired. They become creative. Like, oh man, I was thinking this way. Now maybe I got a different idea here. Maybe I can do something with that tree. Maybe I can make it to be something else. Maybe I can carve it into something. Now, I'm not saying it's specifically bad, and I'm not condoning drugs either. I'm giving you the facts, and I'm giving you very simple information that a lot of you forget because you're trained and programmed to forget. Because a lot of times we just don't understand. The problem of the matter is a lot of, and I'm going to say, I won't say the majority, but I'm going to say a handful of your ideas that you receive today, especially from the church or religion, have came from people that dabbled in drugs, that dabbled in narcotics, that had this sleep state mind, and they thought their gesture was standing before. They thought they saw God. They thought they saw the Messiah, and they wanted to share it with the world because it was so real. Hold on here. It's getting kind of loud out here. I mean, just thinking about it. How many times when we fell asleep and we had a dream that we thought was very real, we thought it actually happened, and you woke up and you're saying to, hold on, it's this little wind visor and chair is getting kind of loud here. It's kind of bothering me. Hold on. Gotta get in a position where it's not creaking like that and making noises. So those have been uncomfortable for you. I know you hear the birds and everything, which of course indicates that I am outside. So this isn't fake noise that you're listening to. This is actually real. I'm a real life person and not a computer. Well, anyhow, so how many times did you fall asleep and you can recount a dream that was either good or bad, and you thought it was real, no matter your consciousness within your physical body, your mind was so lost where you could have swore at that time it was real. And when you woke up in the morning, there was two things that you had to expect, either disappointment or relief. If you had a bad dream, you was relieved that it didn't actually happen. You're waking up, kissing the ground, or hugging your wife, or you go to the kitchen, get a glass of water, and sit for 5 minutes and thank the heavens and say, "Oh man, whew, I am glad that really didn't happen." But then, of course, there are dreams and visions and ideas that you have when you close your eyes and make you wonder, why did you think about that? Why did you imagine that? Why did that come into your mind? You wasn't concentrating on that negatively. That wasn't your intentions when you closed your eyes. You just wanted the rest. But then you were so captivated. You thought that moment was so real in your dream where it caused so much real fear. You'll wake up and you're sweating, or you upset, you feel shaken, you're bothered when you get on the edge of your bed, and then in your mind you're thinking to yourself, that was crazy. Why did that happen to me? What type of vision was this? Now, let's imagine that's when you're sober. That's when you didn't take drugs before bed. This is when you haven't smoked anything, and there's no cocaine, coke, or anything going through your blood. You didn't even smoke a cigarette or anything like that. No alcohol. Now, let's add the narcotics and drugs and all the dopamine-inducing sort of THCs that the common person encountered in the old days. I'm not talking about today, even though those things can happen today. We're talking about the old days here. You're talking about something that can throw an individual off, especially when there wasn't a lot of information nor facts in the old days versus today. They had to deal with a lot more than what we have to encounter in this modern day. Now, I'm going to segue this and actually tether it to the past and the facts about religion and these ideas that you hear some of these new pastors continuously brainwashing you with, and some of the ideas that you have about God, the universe, and the like. In the old days, ladies and gentlemen, the drug industry wasn't so regulated like it is today. In those days, I can't say what year it is because I don't want to get wrong. I'm going to say around 1960s, 50s, sometimes 70. I would say early 70s. I wouldn't say no later than that. That's when regulations really start hitting. But I would say before the 1970s, but earlier than that. Drugs wasn't as heavily restricted. There was even times where they actually put coke in drinks and fed it to babies. Yes, they did. Opium was widespread. Actually, they used opium as if it was the new miracle drug. You understand? They did feed that to babies. They did, yes, and put it in babies' bottles. They put it in almost everything. Gum, drinks, food. You know, they used it as medicinals and not. Okay, you got to understand that there was a lot of, you could say, mysteries of drugs and how it affected the human body in those days. It was still in its infancy stages of effects. No one knew what was really going on with these new ways of introducing chemicals, as you can call it, to the human body. Even the doctors themselves in the old days actually prescribed opium openly to multiple patients for multiple reasons and considered it to be a healthy additive to the average human's life. They even added opium to babies' drinks or administering opium to babies who were in their teething stage. Let's get real. Let's get factory. Let's factory. Let's be factual here and tell it exactly how it used to be. See, most of the stuff that you think that you've gotten, you think is like a reputable source, that it was from God or this person was motivated by the spirit of I'm not even going to say, because some of y'all are going to get sensitive and be all in your emotions, but motivated by your God figures, by your so-called lords that you worship. You know, the ones that you go to the cathedral for. You light candles and you bend over and you're you know, a lot of times you don't understand where you come from. You know, one of my martial arts trainers said this, and I will never forget. I'm always remember this and continue to share it. He said, never forget where you came from. Never forget where you came from. Never forget where you came from. A lot of you stopped when you was born. That's it. That's all you got. A lot of you go by what you think is going on right now. You don't go deeper to 1930s, 1920s, way after this so-called biblical texts, these Qurans and things were created. You only go so far back. You don't go far enough to say, where have this thing came from? What was the beginning of this? What's the idea of it? So this is what I teach a person. And I'm going to give you a lesson here, or you could say a method that you can use in which what I am saying. There is a 5-step method that will eliminate most arguments and debates. There's a 5-step method. There is I can call it the fist, or you can call it the one-punch knockout in any debate. When you're dealing with emotional, or you could say religious mindset, or piety, or people who just believe just because they are told to believe. Okay? And that is what you're looking for, ladies and gentlemen, is always the why. In a debate, look for the why. The why is in everything, meaning, why is this here? Why? Why do you know? Why did this happen? Why do you think this way about your perception? Should I say perception? Perception. Do you know what perception is? Perception. Why do you think that your perception of God is true? And this is how you defeat it. We are at the stage today where it's like this, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking for an answer of our life. Where most people in the religious sector, that is, looking for God, looking for life, looking for heaven, looking to live forever, looking to be right in the eyes of the angels and whatever else Casper the Friendly Ghost you're looking towards. Okay? Even though you don't see it. There's a reason why you don't see it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O. There's a reason why you look in your coffer and it's empty. There's a reason why when you yell down the hallway to this invincible person that you're calling your God, whoever that God is, you don't get an answer. There's a reason why you struggle as you do with your religious transformations and your journey. There's a reason why there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. There's a reason why you're still lost. There's a reason why you can't put the two pieces together or the chain link is broken. The why, ladies and gentlemen, there's a method and I'm going to show you. Okay? So you start off, let's just say, we are all standing around a pond of water. Okay? A pond of water. Bear with me. I'm going to try to make this easy for you. Especially you dummies in the back of the classroom who don't pay attention. Wake the hell up. You need to get your mind and your head out of dopamine and opium. Maybe you can listen and understand. And we need this water to live. This water is vital. Okay? We can wash in it, drink in it, boil in it, whatever that you need to do. So what happens is that one day things start to change and things get hot. It starts to heat up outside. Okay? And it doesn't rain. So stage one have begun. With stage one comes stage two, which is heat. Very hot heat. Now the water's heating up. Okay? What is it heating up? That's stage three, water. It's hitting the water, the H2O. It's affecting it now. It's causing the water to do some things that it should not be doing. You don't want it to. Not to say it's unnatural. It's natural. Which leads to stage four, which is steam or evaporation. All right? It begins to deplete over time. If you sit it out there too long in the heat, it's going to deplete. To the point where the hotter it is from the beginning, sun, heat, water, to steam, you can call it vapor. I'm just going to call it steam for the fourth stage. To the point where it's empty. Oh, I got to take a drink on this. So now we all stand around the pond, and the pond is empty. It's empty. There's no more water there. It's pretty much depleted, right? You can't wash it no more. You have nothing to wash your clothes. You can't drink nothing. You know, there's no way to wash your hands. It's just, you got to go somewhere else. You got to find a different pond. But let's just say that's the only pond. That's the only place if you're not willing to travel. So you are taught today by other groups of people who may have water somewhere else or resources that it's okay for you to stand here in this now empty pond, which look like a gorge or something like that, or just a deep hole in the ground. You are supposed to stand there and think you're going to get life out of it. Think you're going to evolve. Think you're on the right path. When realistically there's no water in it. You're supposed to believe. You're supposed to have faith. You're supposed to think, oh, I'm doing just fine. I can bathe in this empty water. Let me sit on my knees and pray to the empty sky. Let me sit here and hold the hand of Casper the Friendly Ghost and hope, which hope don't exist anyway for some of you who don't understand, and hope that I'm going to get what I need from this Casper the Friendly Ghost. You're supposed to sit there and not understand how this pond, used to be pond of water, is depleted now. You're supposed to not figure out the math, the sun, the heat, the water, and the steam. Because if you understood the 5-step method and the why, you're going to do your research and say, wait a minute, why is this Bible here? Why did man write this word that we call inspired by God? How did these prophets get inspired? What did they do? There has been multiple occasions in your Bible and in your words, in your so-called churches, because the pastor speeds over it on purpose because they get trained to indoctrinate you. That's just exactly what they do. They will always say, well, God came to him in a dream. You know, God appeared to whoever in a vision. God appeared to him over the pier of, Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Everest, or God appeared to him in a bush, a burning bush. Yeah, I bet it was a burning bush. Yeah, it's one of those stinky burning bush, one of those burning bushes that get you locked up burning bush. I bet it was the burning bush that put people behind prison and in jail for several months, even years, if they get caught with ounces of it. Yeah, I bet he did see God through a burning bush. And some of you don't understand that. You don't even look for the why. You've encountered plenty. I just explained it to you. You've encountered visions before. You've went to sleep and thought your dream was real, whether it was good or bad, and you might wake up with an idea, or you're plowing the field, you end up chewing the wrong type of tobacco or some black root or something like that was tainted, or some type of rotted something, or maybe some vinaigrette of some sort. And then now your brain is triggered by the chemical induced compounds, which THC or whatever else that it has in it, toxins and poisons that cause you to think a certain way. And now you think life is that way because you've become delusional by the plant life that you have engulfed. See, a lot of times I'm going to tell you what it is. When they give you a story about prophets and people and teachers and, well, God appeared before Abraham in a form of a statue. You don't, what the fuck? Y'all, I'm disappointed in the human race. I'm very disappointed in you guys. I'm very disappointed. You can't get more stupid than that. You cannot. You can, but you're at a record low at that particular point. If you can do better, I will be amazed. But you know what? The stuff that I've been seeing nowadays, currently, I really wouldn't be amazed or surprised. You got to be senseless to just think to yourself that this could actually happen. You have to be. Because the only time doctors would tell you this, the Food and Drug Administration would tell you, scientists would tell you this. Most times, that person's mind was introduced to drugs. It was under the influence. There are people who can drive and they're under the influence and they don't even remember going from one place of town to the next. And of course, things happen in between. There are things that you can see on social media, the internet, and television now, where when a person's intoxicated, they can hit a bike on the side of the road, an actual motorcycle on the side of the road, and they'll keep driving, and the hood is busted up, and they're on the highway with this bike sliding in front of them, or whatever, a bench seat, a chair, or they driving on flats from, they're on the highway or some major road, and they're driving on 2 flat tires. The cops ain't chasing them. They're not running from nobody. They're just so drugged out, they don't realize they're driving on their wheel and not on their tire because they're so intoxicated with their pharmaceutical drugs, or they're overdosed, or they had the wrong type of opium, which opium is bad anyway. I mean, all opium is bad opium, but Don't let me tell it. I don't know. I don't test it out, so I wouldn't know what's bad or good. I just stay away from it altogether. I'm just gonna say all opium is bad opium. Anyhow, they got a hold of the wrong type of drug that jacked them up to the point where they're delusional. They can't even tell you. They can't even tell you where they came from. They're just driving down the road, and they can't hear the screeching tires of their own vehicle. You know, they don't see people waving at them. Hey, you moron! Look down. You know, what are you doing, man? You're you know, your trunk is open. What that? You know, you're dragging your trailer behind you, just flopping back and forth. You be like, this dude. You automatically know. The common individual will automatically know that that person is intoxicated, one form or the other. And usually, it is found out. There's been plenty of times in police reports. And on any newspaper, I would call it, I consider it to be, you know, your new newspaper is your dumb phone. Whereas when someone runs into a police, a storefront, right, or a building or a mom and pop shop, or they run over a curve in a single car crash, that means one car that crashed itself, ladies and gentlemen. That doesn't mean two people. A single car crash is one car that crashed off some stupid situation. You know, they were ignorant, they wasn't paying attention. They're lackadaisical, you know, being the typical, you know, American, but, you know, they did something stupid. And in the reports, you will usually find out 9 times out of 10 that person was intoxicated. They had something in their blood. They were under the influence of some sort of paraphernalia. And therefore, it's amazing how we can forget and think that the prophets and the inventors and people that have come before now didn't dabble in it. I would voucher they dabbled even more because it was free. It was in everything. It wasn't regulated. It was a free market. Some of you don't even remember when cigarettes was allowed to be smoked anywhere and everywhere that you went to. Cigarettes was allowed on airplanes. Cigarettes was allowed in clubs. Cigarettes was allowed even in your office places. You can sit there and blaze a cigarette in your office building, in your cubicle, right there, amongst other professional people. While you going over paperwork or talking to people on the phone, imagine that, having an ashtray on your work desk. It's not even imaginable, right? But they used to do that. It was allowed. That type of drug was everywhere. But we also understand that secondhand smoke is dangerous, right? Right? Don't you know that secondhand smoke is dangerous? So therefore, if you got somebody next cubicle that's been hanging out with this person, they don't smoke, but they've been around that person who's been smoking, guess what? They get contact. They end up suffering the damages of secondhand smoke because they've been around that person. So therefore, through research, time, and extensive studies, they realized cigarette smoke was terrible. And those around people who smoke cigarettes need to not be around them, because it can be a life-threatening situation. Hold on, let me do something here. The computer's kind of... I gotta plug in this port here, or we're gonna have some problems. Hold on. Let's see here. Should be correct. Okay. Should be about right now. Hush, shut up. Okay, there we go. So anyhow, and then what happens is that person... Okay, now I'm getting pissed off now. So the person that's been hanging out with them end up with some type of cancer or lung disease or issues or asthma or I don't know, emphysema or some other things that they got going on. I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into that. And so they end up affected by it. As easy as they would be affected by something that was so free to be smoked and to be dealt with out in public, that was the same as opium and other drugs that were available in the old days before it became regulated. They had to, of course, over time realize the damages of the drugs that was being used. But a lot of the inventors and people and so-called religious sectors that you all believe to be very innocent and non-committal to ignorance, they were underneath the influence. They would tell you that they saw Jester the Crest. They would tell you that God has spoken through them through a brick wall, or God appeared before, the Lord God appeared before so-and-so through a dove. I mean, oh my God. Yeah, I heard the voice of God through a rabbit. Like, come on, man. Y'all. Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, man. Y'all, let me tell you, y'all modern people are classic. Y'all are classic when it comes to comedy. Boy, I tell you, y'all will believe if someone said, you know, I went out in the garage and I was praying for God to reveal himself, and the car started honking his horn, and I started talking to the car. God revealed to me through a car. And you forgot that before you walked out into the garage, you did a couple of lines. Yeah. And then you woke up in your sweat. In your garage, you woke up in a sweat, didn't know where you came from, what happened, but the only thing you remember is that you was talking to the car. Goodness gracious. And this same person, years ago, they didn't have a garage, but this same person in their laboratory, in their wooden houses, and, you know, in their circles of passing the gunja, that same person will have an idea and say, you know what? I am feeling creative. I think I'm going to write this book of stuff and tell the world what I think about us as a human race. And I'm going to tell them that it was inspired by God, because I think my dream was real. You know, I think the bush was really talking to me. I think that that deer was really trying to tell me something. I'm not saying, listen, I'm not saying that what you think your idea of religion is completely false. But what I am telling you is that we don't understand the why, and a lot of, I shouldn't say us, I understand, a lot of you don't understand. I'm the teacher here. Is that what you hold so dear to yourself, you don't dig. You don't do your research. You don't understand the past. You don't even remember what happened several decades ago, because you're so in tune with just going along with the party today. You're so in tune with somebody telling you about the latest thing, the latest iPhone, the latest idea, the latest jargon, the latest language, the latest way of living. You don't ever go back into the past and say, well, why? Find out the why and the X. You don't do the math. You don't figure out that a lot of these things come from somewhere. There's a reason why the water is gone from the pond. It's because it started with heat, or you could say the sun. Then there was no rain. The heat was unyielding. It didn't let up. It didn't recede. It kept beating terribly at high degrees at this water, which was H2O. Then it started dispersing. Chemical reaction. The water turned into steam. Now you have no more water. A lot of you don't figure it out. All you do is say, well, you know, the pastor say I should believe. I guess I just believe. I'm going to believe by faith, and I'm going to jump in this pool, this pond that has no water in it, and think I'm going to flourish and I'm going to prosper based on an idea. Yeah, go ahead and try. Yeah, go ahead and try. As a matter of fact, y'all do. This is why your world have come to be what it is today. I talk to multiple people all the time, especially Jehovah's Witnesses. Boy, they are very interesting. Very interesting. I'm not even going to get into it in this audio. But I had one of them, and it's not all of them, but I'm just going to tell you what one of them said. Because I'm not going to put every Jehovah's Witness in this category, because I know it's just this guy. But they do have the same principles. So he tells me that his way is the only way. Every other religion is wrong, right? Every other religion is misled and false sense reality. And they talk about how he's just a branch away from Christianity. But I looked at their books, and I'm not going to get into that too, because there's some words missing in their books. I know a lot about the Jehovah's Witness, so I'm not going to get into it right now. You don't have to explain it to me about their falsehood and their false ideas of what Jehovah is. But when he said, "Oh, every other religion, they're wrong too," they was misled, but we are the way. Jehovah, he's the accurate way. And I told him, do you know this? I said, do you know that when I talk to the majority of the rest of them as well, they think the same way about you? The same thing that you said is the same thing that they are saying too, that your religion is wrong. So all of you are in the same piss pot. One think they're better than the other because they think they're in line with God, because they're believers, because they're standing around this pond and believing that there's water in it. The next group of people are doing the same thing, but they think they're different, but yet they're the same. Yeah, ego. Yet you said it, ego. Ego and pride. That's another thing that religion throws on you after you get around somebody who, "Oh yeah, I love the Lord." You don't love the Lord? Well, you're not allowed in heaven then. Ego. I think they're special than the next person. And then they want to look at you like you're a sinner because you rather not believe, you rather do the math. They think you're wrong because you live in reality. They think that you are out of your mind because you rather understand that 1 + 2 is 3, and you add 3 and 3 together, you're going to get a 6. You add 6 and 6 together, you're going to get a 12. You add a 12 and 12 together, you're going to get 24. Because you're able to do that, they'll look at you like you crazy. They're staring at you like, "Oh, you're the Antichrist." And you're looking at them like, "No, it's just I rather understand the math. I rather figure out the why. So I don't walk through life ignorant and unsuccessful. I rather understand my history so I can understand where I'm going in my future." Anyhow, let me go ahead and bundle this down because I don't want to take too long. I already have. The whole batch of it all, and throwing all the good things in it to break it down with you, is a lot of our so-called leaders of the past, that is, religious leaders. A lot of books that we got today, and a lot of things that the word is believe in, which isn't my word, is your word, believe, because you don't know. Believe in, usually is based on a time where people didn't have to confirm the facts. People didn't have to really be completely accurate. Everybody was on some type of drugs. They was on some type of opium. They was chewing twigs and twigs. They're doing black root, and there were more GMOs than what you can imagine, genetically modified stuff. If you want to go in the old days where they had the skull and bones on drinks and additives and a lot of food, people just weren't thinking straight. It was an experimental time in human history. And if you go even further than the experimental time where the herb gatherers were able to get these, poppy seeds and crazy strange pharmaceutical items from herbs, it was still a time where people were just discovering who they was. How are they going to know what they are seeing 100% without confirming it? And when you confirm something, it's going to last even till today. Meaning this: if I tell you there's a Superman that can fly 200 miles per hour, and he pulls cats from the tree, and he's yesterday, today, and forever, then you better be sure that you're going to see that same Superman today, because what I'm telling you is true. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all don't get that. Somebody didn't get that. Somebody didn't get that. I'm going to say it one more time so you can get me. Let me say it one more time so you can get what I'm saying. Listen carefully. I'll say it slow if I have to. If I told you back in 1900 that there was a Superman that can fly 200 miles per hour and he pulls cats out of the tree. If I told you he was yesterday, he is today, and he is forever, and he doesn't change, that means back in 1900 he was doing that, and today in the 2020s he's still doing the same thing. Where if I was able to see him in the 1900s walking on water, if I was able to see him do the most craziest and great miracles of that time, that means he will still have the ability to do great miracles and great outlandish things today where you can physically see it. Because he doesn't change, right? He doesn't change, right? He does not change, right? Simple shit. Y'all don't understand. Too stupid. If I tell you this tree was yesterday, it is today, and it's going to be tomorrow. That means when you wake up in the morning with your crusty eyes, your crocodile breath, and your ugly looking, scrawled out looking face, you can take your ratchet, narrow ass outside and be damn sure that that tree is going to sit outside, because it is the truth. It doesn't change. Air is air. Water is water. Fire is fire. If it's going to be what it is, it's going to be what it is. You can't add words to it. You can't take words away. It's going to be factual. But when I have to tell you to believe in a thing and that thing is not there, I am lying to you. I'm giving you a placebo. I want you to believe because you don't know and you have no real raw evidence to know. But the only thing that will help you see it the way that the ancients and the old drugged up people have saw it is if you introduce yourself to that same level of ignorant delusion, the same as they have. And you're not allowed to, otherwise you'll find yourself underneath the prison, and you don't want to do that. It's illegal because it messes up people's mind and make them senseless and emotionally out of reality. Yes, emotionally out of reality. I put those two together. Because you will get into your emotions. It messes up your mind. It causes you not to think straight. You become irrational. You become dangerous. You become very aggressive unnecessarily. You do things you don't normally do. You become and I'm not going to say his name, but just look at the story of Mr. I'll put it like this. I have respect for him and I like him as a comedian. Just look at the story of Chris Farley, for example. Okay? Just look at Chris Farley. When you have a clear mindset, you're going to take better care of yourself. You're going to see life a little differently. You're not going to be introduced to partying and just going along with what's going on, because you'll end up deleting yourself very soon. And a lot of times you say, well, it's not that the prophets did that. It's not that they lived that, that very heavy lifestyle. You don't know, because they had bathhouses. I don't know too many bathhouses that you have now besides the, nude community. But we're not going to get into that. But they did things that you would not even accept today because they were experimenting in the earlier times of humanity. Let me say it again. Some of you don't get it. They was experimenting. You're not going to get your facts and say that it is solid through experimentation. Elon Musk is not going to have a car that was in its experimental phase and cause this car to survive. It's a test subject. It's just a prototype. It's something that's meant to be broken. It's meant to deal with the harsh terrain should it not last, it's no big deal. It was a test subject anyway. It was a time to say what you do and you do not do. So how are you going to get a book of truth? How are you going to get life out of something, especially of humanity, when they were introduced to drugs, and drugs mess up your mind, and the mind is where you're going to start producing stuff with. Duh. Dummy. You understand? So how are you going to sit up here and say this person who wrote this book are these ideas of religion or God, are their precession of, oh, you know, I was walking down the street and this horse was sitting on the sidewalk, and it was in the middle of the city. There was no trolley behind it. I don't even know what the horse was. It was a big white horse with wings. Yeah, I think it probably even had a horn on it. It was talking to me and it told me which way to go. While you just smoked on some stuff, some moles, you don't even know what's in it. But yeah, you're gonna sit up here and tell everybody, yes, there's a such thing as horses walking around on sidewalks talking to people. Then half of you funny people on some strange, I ain't gonna say on some strange powder, you'll take your funny looking selves and actually drive down there to the zoo and think you can have a conversation with the horse. Y'all don't get how crazy those times was. You don't understand. It was a different universe way before the 1970s and 1960s. It was a different time. It was free love. It was drugs here and there. It wasn't regulated. You could smoke in the stores. You could smoke around police officers. You could do all kind of crazy. The police officers probably smoking themselves because it wasn't regulated. It was an experimental time. You understand? So now you're going to talk about those were great prophets that wrote your Bible, or I ain't going to say the other, y'all get offended, Quran and other books, Tikkun Torah, Tapahuda, Black Book of Hurora, or, the cadence of, strange creatures from planet Mars and Bahuda. Ridiculous. And you're going to say this is actually books of life from people who were smoking opium? Get the hell out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Go on somewhere. Go have a seat. You wouldn't even hire a drug addict on your job, let alone take them seriously. For good. Come on, stop playing. We wouldn't even hire or vote a president in that we knew y'all gonna start. Y'all stop it. I see y'all comments now. Quit. We're not talking about the current president. Y'all, that's on y'all. I'm talking about presidents. No, don't put me in the target range. No, I'm saying you would not ever vote a president in if you knew the president was on drugs. You wouldn't do it. I'm not talking about over the counter. I'm talking about under the counter drugs. Because they will make terrible decisions and mistakes with the responsibilities on their shoulders. So when it comes to the future is a heavy responsibility that adults have to pass on to the next generation. So you're going to sit here and have these crazy false ideas of what you think God is by people who their head was in cloud nine. They were smoking red root. They were smoking stuff that had hair on it. What the hell's wrong with y'all? They was doing all kind of crazy stuff. They was doing all kind of crazy rituals. I'm talking about chopping heads off of goats, worshiping deer. Come on, y'all need to stop. Some of them, they was worshiping cows. They drink the milk for a ritual, and let me stop. Y'all don't get it. And then they'll bring this book to you. Oh, this is Wicca. Hey, this is Wicca. This is this and that. And you sit there, oh, this is true. Oh my God, it's fascinating. It's fascinating because it sounds like it makes sense. Because this person's head was so far up in the cloud, it sounds believable. It sounds believable because it's so outlandish, because we love crazy stuff. We love to be entertained. We love things that just don't make sense. Because that's what y'all do as human beings. You love just to sit there and just be fascinated about, flying horses. I don't know how they're flying. They're just flying. You know, stories like, Saint Nick, Santa Claus. This is what get kids so much. Oh, flying reindeer. What the? What? Where you get this stuff from? Y'all just sit around the table and say, we're gonna fascinate the kids. We're just gonna fascinate humanity, but all kind of crazy stuff. They'll believe it. Just put this. Let's just sprinkle this white stuff in candy, and let's share it amongst the population and let them have fun with it. We can tell them everything. We can indoctrinate, tell them, that building over there, that's paradise. You go inside, it's all kind of, y'all. Just do yourself a favor and do your research. That's what you need to do. Before you, and this is why I can't really explain it in depth, because I'm already an hour in this conversation, this lesson today. You have to understand that a lot of your ideas have come from people who wasn't planted in reality. And because they haven't been planted in reality, it sounds so outrageous to you. But at the same time, humans got this thing that's called adaptability that y'all don't understand. Humans know how to adapt to their situation. So if something don't make sense, the average person or the average human will find a way to make it make sense, because they want to be in line with life. They if there's a God, they want to be in line with God. So they'll try to purposely force themselves to be acceptable in the eyes of God through multiple denominations of religion. Yes, because there's 16 or more religions, 16 or more cultures with their own idea of who God is or what life is, based on them trying to mold or conform this idea of a universal God in their own likeness, so they can feel and think that they're in line with God. Because if it wasn't true, it'd be one God for all races, all people, one kind, and it would be that Superman that was yesterday, today, and forever, where you can get an autograph back in 1900, you can get an autograph today, and you're going to get an autograph 100 years from now. That's the definition of not changing. I'm sorry, and I'm not sorry that a lot of your elevators don't go up to the top floor. But that's your fault. You don't research. You don't understand your own history. You go by what somebody else tells you. You don't understand how your people used to live in the past. The stuff that you carrying on is because you want to be compatible with the delusion. That's what it is. You don't want to accept facts. The fact is, it is what it is. If there's water in the pond, it's going to be there. If it's not going to be there, it's not going to be there. But you need to understand why it isn't. If you don't figure out the why, then you're a well-made, willingly slave and an idiot of your own delusion. Good night, and until next time.